Paris, chérie, mon beau Paris, c'est tout.
Hello and welcome to Paris Set Me Free mini photo tutorials. If you want to see the photos that I'm going to discuss in more detail, go to the blog at parissetmefree.blogspot.com and look for August 2008. This is a triptych. Well, if artists can do them, why shouldn't photographers be able to as well? And I'll let you into a little secret. This is a great way. You know that the problem, the dilemma, when you've taken some great shots and you're trying to follow my advice and only have one shot of the same subject. However many you took from however many angles, you're trying to cut it down and you just can't. It's killing you to decide between one or two of your favorites. So this is the way to get around it. Make a triptych. In order for a triptych to work, a triptych means three. There's three photos there, and in order for this to work, it has to the sum of the parts has to be more than the individual elements. In other words, putting these three pictures together has to give you something more than looking at them individually. In other words, you have to tie them together. And the way you can do this is through a story. It can be such a simple story as this guy walking past. So here he is. Let's have a look at these in more detail. This whole triptych is based around this central frame here, which is graffiti by a graffiti artist, very well known Parisian graffiti artist called Mystic or Mystique. And she does these things all over the place. She's got so famous now that there was even a massive advertising campaign by some major department store using her, which is interesting. These were found in a place called Butokai in the 13th district, which is it's a hill famous for revolutionary hideouts and such like, and she's all over the place. And what she does is she always has this character, this girl in a little black dress, in some sort of pose or with some sort of expression on her face, linked to an existential expression or quote, as we see here, nous qui désirons sans fin. And just a word about that, it means, in my bad translation, we who desire without hunger. The way she's written it, it means hunger or hungers with an S, and some pedant or person without much of a soul has crossed out the S. First of all, defacing a superb piece of graffiti, and secondly, showing their ignorance in not letting the artist express herself as she wants, because if she wanted to put an S on fin to mean hungers, we who desire without hungers, then that's up to her. And also there's probably a play on words with the word fin, F-I-N, which means end. So this could equally, when you pronounce it, it means it sounds exactly the same. Sans fin means without end or without limit. So we who desire without limit, or we who desire without hunger. So you can take that. Well, it's up to you to decide how to interpret that. Not for me to tell you. Here, then, the entire triptych is based around this picture. But as I said, to make it more impressive, you have to give it a story. So here's my story, and the story invented itself as I was standing there. It wasn't pre-planned, of course. This guy was not pre-planned. But I said, well, along he came, and it's always nice to have human interest. You have semi-human interest in the graffiti, but it's not real human interest. So here comes the real human interest, the guy, the dude. So let's have a look at this in more detail. Here's the triptych itself. I've made these two on the edges bigger, and the one in the middle smaller as a link. Here's where the story starts. This guy's coming along, he's walking, his shadow is leading towards her, which is nice. In fact, the whole of, well, I'll talk about the individual pictures in a minute. He's moving towards her. There she is, she's waiting, talking about desire or whatever. This is like a zoom up, like in a comic book, comic strip. You've zoomed into a detail, and then finally at the end, there he is. He's actually on his way past. They're touching, but not touching. It looks like they're touching, but of course we know there's a space between them, and he's off, this guy with the nice sou'wester on his head. Let's look at those in more detail. We've already seen this one, which no, I did want to talk about that actually. What I've done is I've gone off to the side, which in the if you look at the original picture here, you can see the writing is pretty much static. It doesn't expand out as it does here. That was my device, and I did that by moving off to the edge and shooting at an angle. You have to be careful that what that's done is it makes it splay out like fingers almost, going out like this, but getting bigger towards this side. But you've got to be careful when you move off to the side, because it makes people thinner, and she's already a bit of a waif, so I didn't go out so far that she just became a sliver. This black thing just became a line if I went too far out. Just enough. Kept her in the frame, very pure. There's nothing except the graffiti. That's a tribute to the artist, like an acknowledgement, honouring the artist. After all, the artist has given me this triptych, which I have created. Now looking at the side photos, here's the first one. Loads of detail here. You've got the two of the door, you've got some thing hanging down here, you've got another little grill, you've got the electricity box, you've got the drain pipe, you've got a window with a shutter here giving some Parisian flavour, you've even got the drain here at the bottom echoing the lines up here, and you've got his shadow. This is a nice little square here, his straight back, his shadow leaning in towards her and under the girl going up here with the words. You could almost have a square picture, which would be absolutely lovely, but I didn't do that. So this picture has got loads of detail in it. Now compare it with this one. This one almost has no detail. I've focused on the guy touching but not touching, passing the girl, and her expression. What I've also decided to do is frame them in a natural frame as well as the picture frame. And as it happens, there was this frame here going like that, which makes a marvellous natural frame. What I mean by natural frame is it wasn't contrived. I didn't invent it. I found it, and that's good enough for me. So you're going from the complexity of this photograph, maybe the complexity of the thoughts in his head. We invent the story, don't forget. This has got nothing to do with the reality. I'm imagining, he's got some strange thoughts in his head, all messed up with all of these details, and then as he goes past, maybe things become clearer. But then again, he doesn't see her, and she looks sadder in this picture than in this one. Here she seems to be sort of optimistically waiting, whereas in this one I imagine she's a little bit forlorn. It seems like she's been passed by and there's nothing she can do about it. Just another. So those should really hang together as well as possible, and that makes the sum of the parts greater than the individual parts. If you look at these two pictures, the format is exactly the same. I've made sure that this picture on the right and this on the left are exactly the same proportions as the one in the middle. If you don't have a harmonious feel to it, then the picture won't hang together as well. There's also one of those found elements which is pleasing, and it often happens. I find something which holds the pictures together, which I didn't see at the time, but I think I subconsciously saw. Or, without flattering myself too much, it's a pure and simple happy coincidence. And what I found is this 2 here on the doorway is perfectly mirrored by this little grill here within my found frame. It sounds like a little thing, but boy, it just makes the picture that much stronger. And in an exhibition or on a wall, this would be fantastic. It would be people would look at it and they wouldn't know all of this thinking that I'm pouring out here, but they would be impressed by this, and they would call it art as opposed to snaps. Well, that's all for today. Thanks very much for listening. Don't forget, look at the good versions on the site at parissetmefree.blogspot.com. Go to August 2008. Thanks for listening. Good luck with your photos. Try some triptychs, and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Depuis que je suis à Paris, le jour et la nuit, je suis gris. J'ai compris la douceur de vivre. Je suis fou de joie, je suis ivre. Depuis que je suis à Paris.